morning, I'm Jamshed Beg, known as JB the Adventurer, a solo traveler and a travel blogger from Manchester, England with over 30 years of traveling experience. In today's adventure, we are going to visit one of my dream places, a place I have been wanting to visit since I was a kid. I cannot express my excitement for being able to find time to come this far to visit this unique tribe. We are on our way on this bumpy ride to visit Kalash Valleys. The Kalash Valleys are located in Chitral district in northern Pakistan. The valleys are surrounded by the Hindu Kush mountain range. The inhabitants of the valley are the Kalash people who have a unique culture, language, and follow a form of ancient Hinduism. The Kalash Valleys are the source of attraction for Pakistanis as well as international tourists. There are three main valleys. The largest and most populous valley is Bamburat, reached by a road from Ayun in the Konar Valley. Bamburat Valley is the most developed valley in terms of facilities and most popular with domestic tourists and better accommodation and dining options. Rambur Valley is a side valley north of Bamburat. Small villages in Rambur are less developed and more popular with foreign tourists. Unlike Bamburat, Rambur is still predominantly Kalash. The third valley, Brir, is a side valley of the Kunar Valley south of Bamburat. Brir Valley, the least developed Kalash Valley, and sees the least visitors. So we have decided to visit Bamburat and Rambur purely because of the time restrictions. The best time to go to Kalash is summer, from May to September, because the Kalash valleys are cut off as the access roads are closed due to heavy snow. Foreigners need special permission apart from the regular visa to go to the area. Before you go, you must decide which of the three Kalash valleys you would like to visit. Islamabad is the starting point for getting to Kalash Valleys. Regardless of which valley you would like to visit, the way of getting there is generally the same unless you are flying by a chopper. We started our journey from Islamabad to Islamabad-Savat motorway. First couple of hours of the journey are quite comfortable, but after getting off the motorway, the journey goes slow and not so comfortable. As soon as we got on to N45, which is a single carriage road, the journey started to feel very long and tiring, but I was sure it's going to be well worth it. It took us more than 12 hours to get to our first stop, the village of Ayun, which is the gateway to Kalash Valleys. We arrived at Ayun Fort around 10 p.m. after a long and tiring journey, where we were greeted with heavenly delicious local food and warm hospitality. The following morning, we arranged a local jeep and started our journey from Ayun village. If you don't want to hire a whole jeep, there are shared cars going to the valley in the early morning and late afternoon. From Ayun village, shared cars and jeeps go to different valleys once full. They charge 100 rupees per person for the bumpy ride to your valley of choice. If there are no transport options available when you arrive at Ayun, a private hire should cost no more than 1,000 or 1,200 rupees to any of the valleys. This is is the only bridge which connects three ancient Kalash valleys to the rest of Pakistan, which is built on Bambaret River. This road on my right is heading towards Rambur Valley, and the road to Bambaret Valley is on my left. This is also the security forces checkpoint where every traveler has to show their passport or local identity cards and registered before heading off to Kalash Valleys. As of 2019, to enter the Kalash Valleys, foreigners must pay 600 rupees per person for the welfare of the Kalash people. Deep in the mountains along the Pakistan and Afghanistan border, the remote Kalash Valleys, also sometimes called Kalash Valleys, are quite distinct from the rest of Pakistan population. The Kalash are said to be descendants of the armies of Alexander the Great. The Kalash are an Indo-Aryan indigenous people residing in the Chitral district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. Long cut off from other communities by their remote location, the Kalash Valleys are a cultural world apart from predominantly Muslim population of Pakistan. The literally colorful Kalash practice a religion said to be closely tied to ancient Hinduism, meaning they have a plethora of unique traditions and festivals found nowhere else in Pakistan. Kalash population in Pakistan numbers only in a few thousands, making them one of the smallest ethnic minorities in Pakistan. They speak the Kalasha language, an Indo-Aryan language of the Dardic subgroup. They are considered unique among the people of Pakistan. They are also considered to be Pakistan's smallest ethno-religious group and traditionally practice a religion which some authors characterize as a form of animism. During the mid-20th century, an attempt was made to put force on a few Kalasha villages in Pakistan to convert to Islam, but the people fought the conversion, and once official pressure was removed, the vast majority resumed the practice of their own religion. Nevertheless, about half of the Kalasha have since gradually converted to Islam despite being shunned afterward by their community for having done so. The Kalash are considered to be an indigenous people of Asia, with their ancestor migrating to Chitral Valley from another location, possibly further south, which the Kalash call Siam in their folk songs and epics. Some of the Kalash tradition consider the various Kalash people to have been migrants or refugees. They are also considered by some to have been descendants of Gandhari people, the neighboring Nuristan people of the adjacent Nuristan, historically known as Kafristan, province of Afghanistan, once had the same culture and practiced a faith very similar to that of Kalash, differing in a few minor particulars. The first historically recorded Islamic invasion of their land were by the Ghaznavids in the 11th century, while they themselves are first attested in 1339 during Mughal Emperor Timur's invasion. Nuristan had been forcibly converted to Islam in 1895-96, although some evidence have shown the people continue to practice their customs. The Kalash of Chitral have maintained their own separate cultural traditions, Marriage by elopement is rather frequent, also involving women who are already married to another man. Indeed, wife elopement is counted as one of the great customs together with the main festivals. Wife elopement may lead to some rare cases to a quasi-feud between clans until peace is negotiated by mediator in the form of the double bride price paid by the new husband to the ex-husband. Kalash lineages separate unmarriageable descendants have separated by over 7 generations. The historical religious practices of neighboring Pahari peoples of Nepal, Kashmir, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh are similar to those of Kalash people in that they ate meat, drank alcohol and had shamans. There are many small villages within the valley of Bambarat. We are starting our visit from the oldest Karakal village. The culture of the Kalash people is unique and differs in many ways from the many contemporary Islamic ethnic groups surrounding them in northwestern Pakistan. Their polytheist and nature plays a highly significant and spiritual role in their daily life. As part of their religious traditions, sacrifices are offered and festivals held to give thanks for the abundant resources of their 3 valleys. Kalash valleys are made up of 2 distinct cultural areas, the valleys of Rambur and Bambarat forming one, and Brir Valley the other. Brir Valley being the more traditional of the 2. Kalash mythology and folklore has been compared to that of ancient Greece, but they are much closer to the Hindu traditions in other parts of the Indian subcontinent. This is the first and the only bank in this village which was established by the Corporation of Australian Government in 2016. Looking at the construction and simple architecture of these houses makes me feel like I have time traveled. These houses are built with basic and local supplies such as rocks and wood from the surrounding mountains. They have 2 different types of houses in these valleys. One's old and very basic, mostly built with local rocks and wood using ancient techniques. However, some of the houses are very nicely built with more of a modern style, which also shows the better economic status of the owners of these houses. There is also a small souvenir shop to offer local handmade dresses and other souvenirs for you to bring with you. This shop also offers local dresses, especially for women, to try them on and have a photo shoot for a very small tip.
So this is the kitchen of a local family of Kalash. We have been invited very kindly to come and have a look inside. And this is the oven they're using to do all the cooking. And they use wood, obviously, to heat it up.
The houses are decorated beautifully with lots of colorful flowers, especially the ceiling of each house are very nicely decorated with different colors. Our local host was a very kind lady who opened her house to us and offered her kind hospitality.
See, we are even treated by the locals and we've been offered local wine, which has been highly recommended. Wherever I have read the history of these people, I've been told they make a very good local wine and I must try it. So they have offered me a taste of local wine in the chalice, which is really nice. It's slightly dry, but it's amazing.
The carvings of these wooden panels are a good display of local craftsmanship. The 3 main festivals of Kalash are the Chilam Joshi, in middle of May, and Ichao in autumn, and the Chaumas in midwinter. The pastoral god Surizan protects the herds in fall and winter and is thanked at the winter festival, while Goshidai does so until the Pul festival full moon in September and is thanked at the Joshi festival in spring. Joshi is celebrated at the end of May each year. The first day of Joshi is Milk Day, on which the Kalash offers libation of milk that have been saved for 10 days prior to the festival. The most important Kalash festival is the Chaumas Khobar Christmas, which is celebrated for 2 weeks at winter solstice between 7th and 22nd of December at the beginning of the month Chaumas Mastrok. It marks the end of the year's fieldwork and harvest. It involves much music, dancing, and goats killed for consumption as food. It is dedicated to the god Ballyman, who is believed to visit from the mythical homeland of the Kalash, Siam, for the duration of the feast. Our local guide has especially brought us to this house, which is the oldest house in all three valleys. We have been told that this house was built over 400 years ago. I'm quite fascinated by this ladder, which is literally cut out of a tree log, and looking at this wall, it's not hard to tell that it must have been hundreds of years of old. We are trying to get access into the house to see if we can get in and do a little bit of video inside the house. Let's see, I think it's managed to open the door, so let's go inside. Look at this door. I mean, even the handle of the door has been carved in. Instead of having it placed over it, it's been actually carved inside the wood. And just looking at the door, you can tell it must be wood, as it will find some locals how old this actually is. But I can already see that this must be at least 500-600 years old. So let's get inside and see what we can find. Come on guys, come inside and see. This is very low roof, as you can see. It's like, I am nearly 6 feet, it's like 7 feet high. I am not that tall person, and then you can see. I was quite surprised to see these goat hides blown like balloons hanging on top of the kitchen area. We were informed that locals call it mone. It's used to make lassi, a local drink made from yogurt. Apparently, they fill this hide with yogurt and water and shake it until yogurt turns into thin liquid called lassi. Shocked? Yeah, me too. Let's go and explore what's in there. Hello? There's someone in there. Shibata. So this kind man was sleeping inside. I'm so sorry I actually disturbed him, and he's kindly letting us come in and have a look. Can we go inside and come on. And this is where he was sleeping. And this is just a very small room, but by the look of it, you can tell it's got one single bed there, one bed here, and we've got another bed there, and another bed at the back. So we have 4 beds. But I think this is very old. This is very old, like in ancient houses even in Europe, or in forts, they used to build these built-in sort of cupboards to keep their crockery or their food storage. And by the look of this, it reminds me of Tibet, like how the Buddhas live. And we have got here, which is absolutely incredible, are the horns
of I am sure this is the horns of markhor, which is the national animal of Pakistan. But we would ask this fella if he can tell us a little bit more about. And then there is another small door going into somewhere, I'm not sure where, but we'll try to speak to this local guy and see if he can help us to understand the life here. उर्दू आती है आपको? थोड़ा आता है? और कितना अरसा हो गया आपको यहाँ रहते हुए? Oh, you've been living here for generations.
इसका जो दादा है ना, वालिद साहब का बाप, उसके ज़माने से तो कोई 200-250 साल से मतलब।
और ये घर कितना पुराना है? ये
घर पुराना
क्रोश और साल बोलना, क्रोश और साल।
बाप को तब भाई तब भी गाना जरूर
दादा, और ये मुझे याद है कहता है उससे पहले का बना हुआ है।
वाह वाह,
मतलब कोई तकरीबन 400 साल पुराना ये बिहार की लकड़ी है ना, ये खराब नहीं होगी जब तक इसको पानी और मट्टी नहीं लगेगी ना।
बनमुशी करीबना कुशबीर दिनों है।
ये कहता है कि जब खतरनाक जिलजिला होता है ना तो ये हिलता ही नहीं है। ये जो
अभी संजील को चढ़ी का पर सरता को मुंह वाली सरता पर
ये स्टोन और ये लगाए हैं ना इसको, तो ये
So we are being told this house is at least 400 years minimum old, and that this wood which is used here, if it doesn't touch the water and mud, it could last forever. And you can tell after even 400 years is still standing strong. And this guy here has been just telling us that the strength of this house is even the earthquake, the way this house is being built has been built, even the earthquake wouldn't be able to move this and to do any damage to these walls. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a place as old as this, and it's obviously not very nicely kept, but I guess the kind of resources these people have, it's not bad at all. Brilliant.
The Kalash never miss a chance to dance and sing even when someone dies in the family. This is perhaps the most interesting and unique phenomenon. The duration of the ritual depends upon the socio-economic position of the dead person or his family. This is why there is a proverb in local language that when a Kalash is buried, his wealth is dug out, and when he is alive, his wealth is buried. Though the close family members of the dead mourn in the house, they have to arrange for big feast and arrange for celebrations. They put the body in the coffin and keep it for 2 or 3 days in this place called Jastik. Every Kalash community member from the 3 valleys is informed about the death. Women in the family sit around the body with their hair covering their faces, while rest of the community people keep on dancing around the body. The Kalash from different villages continue to come and join the celebration. Whenever a new group of people comes to the celebration, they fire gunshots in the air to announce their arrival. Then one of them stands near the body and starts telling stories about the life of the deceased. As soon as he finishes, the dancing resumes, and the same practice continues for 2 or 3 days. Some 30 to 40 goats are sacrificed during 2 or 3 days of the celebration. The Kalash used to leave bodies in the graveyard without burying them, but now they have started burying them. This is the very place where this is telling us the whole story, how they were leaving their bodies outside and now they have started burying it. So let's go and visit the graveyard. They also bury personal belongings of the deceased like axe, knife and gun, and also leave his pillow and his bed at the grave. They do not bring the belongings back as they believe evil spirits will come home. Kalash people are trying hard to stick to their centuries old customs and rituals. A death is a celebration. They sing and dance around the bodies for their loved ones for 2 or 3 days before burying them in a coffin and offer a feast, typically sacrificing many goats to feed the guests who came to celebrate, not mourn or condole the death. The Kalash leave their bodies in the graveyard and not bury them. They put them in a wooden box and leave them under the open sky. Bear skeletons and human bones are a common sight in the graveyard. The personal belongings of the deceased are consigned to the graves with them. It is believed that the visiting spirits need these. A resident and our host has told us that some of the Kalash people have now started burying their dead. Watching many coffins lying around for years is a strange feeling for the first timers. The idea of celebrating a death is as interesting as it is intriguing. Vaishali, also known as Vaishalini, is like a maternity home which is built away from the main houses and no men are allowed to enter it or even touch its walls or doors. Kalash women move to Vaishali during menstruation and childbirth because they are considered impure during this time. The women confined to the Vaishali spend their time gossiping and doing some handicraft work. They are provided with food by their families, but no one touches them during their stay in this secluded house. After the child is born, the women stay there for at least 10 days, while menstruating women stay there during the time of the periods. There is also a ritual restoring purity to a woman after childbirth, which must be performed before a woman can return to her husband. The husband is an active participant in this ritual. Breathtaking Valley Museum, also known as the Kalasha Dur, House of the Kalasha people or cultural center for the Kalasha. The museum building is the most impressive building of the valley. There are several interesting stories related to this building, including the kidnapped for ransom by Taliban of the Greek national and founder of this place, Athanasius Laronis. Most of these objects were collected by the members of the NGO called the Greek Volunteers based in Greece. The building is composed of 2 floors. The ground floor has the ethnological collection of the Kalasha culture and the wider Hindu Kush area, and the other floor houses a school of Kalasha culture and a library of books written on the valley, and also a hall for professional training of local crafts. Most of these objects were collected by the members of the NGO called the Greek Volunteers based in Greece. They had been working in the Kalash Valley since 1995. The members of Greek volunteers were responsible for much of the collection exhibited in the museum. Volunteers would visit the Kalash valleys with a view to buying traditional objects or to exchange them with modern ones. A lot of worry and anxiety were caused to the members of the Greek volunteers when they noticed that the new Kalasha generation would never see the traditional objects of their ancestors. This observation started the buying of objects, clothes, and other typical items so that they will not go out of the valleys. Their first aim was to exhibit all these objects in the ethnological museum so future generations will be able to see and learn about the life of their ancestors. Later, when the Kalasha Museum was built, the number of the collected objects started to increase. Many offerings by the Kalasha people and inhabitants of Kalasha valleys to their museum has increased the number of items above those purchased. The museum also purchased traditional utensils and other objects which had left the settlements of the Hindu Kush from the antique shops of Peshawar and Chitral to enrich their collection. The credit of building this impressive museum, which is also a school for local community, goes to a Greek national Athanasios Laranus. Athanasios Laranus was abducted while based in the northern district of Chitral, where he worked as a volunteer curator of this heritage museum for several years. He was taken across the border to Afghanistan province of Nuristan. His capture demanded the release of militants held by Pakistan in exchange for his freedom, but officials says no militants exchange was made. He has been released by the successful efforts of Pakistani security. The curator was living in the Kalash Valley to pursue his interest in an ancient lost tribe when he was kidnapped by armed men on September the 7th, 2009. Mr. Leoranis had been living among the Kalash since 2001. Sponsored by Greek government, he managed this museum which highlighted the tribe's culture and Greek connections. Locals point out that before the kidnapping of Mr. Leoranis had experienced no trouble and was well liked by the locals. The Chitral district where he was based is widely seen as untouched by the Taliban insurgency which has ravaged the rest of the northwest frontier province. Kendurik is a wooden image of a prominent figure which is installed on a person's grave by family members and is part of the Gandau celebration, a 3-day celebration designed to install the wooden image. Kendurik are also erected for childless men by their brothers so they will never be forgotten. Family members go to the forest to select the best possible tree for carving the kendurik. The name of the departed soul is recited whilst chopping down the tree. Neighbors and blood relations serve food to the carpenters who work voluntarily. The procession carries the kendurik to the Jastak Khan, where they dance for 24 hours before moving the kendurik on shoulders to the ancestral cemetery. A large number of goats are slaughtered and dresses are made for nephews and nieces and close blood relations. Due to the high cost of the ceremony and the stealing of kendurik from graveyards, these statues have to be encased with metal cages, and this valuable cultural tradition is almost on the verge of disappearance. Jastak Khan is an important sacred place of worship. This building has a roof and boundary walls, traditional carvings on the walls of the pillars and doors. This place is used during the Chaumas festival and funeral rituals. majestic hen and its roof are considered sacred and used for offering and sacrifices. Local and tourist women are not allowed to go on the roof. We were lucky to have some friends in the area who introduced us to a very kind Kalash family. We were welcomed into their homes. This local lady and her son were so kind to offer us local wine and provided us with very useful information about the history, culture, and traditions of Kalash. Exploring the world and sharing these exciting adventures with you is a passion of mine. Be a part of my passion by hitting the like button and share this video as much as possible. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future adventures. Take only memories, leave only footprints. See you next week with a new adventure. Ciao.